Comiskey Park, Chicago. Oh, excuse me a second. Kids, if you're going to do a video project, don't let things get in the way of your good shot like this. Just a little tip from me to you. Comiskey Park, Chicago. Home of the Babe, Joe DiMaggio, Nellie Fox, Walt No Neck Williams. Was the site of the second and biggest Beatles concert in Chicago. Over 60,000 fans saw two spectacular shows, one at 3 p.m. and one at 8 p.m. The ballpark shows in 1965 were among the Beatles' most famous. Shea Stadium in New York and Comiskey Park in Chicago were a part of them. But one of the biggest fans attending that Comiskey Park show went down in legend as a Teenage Ringo star lookalike. His name was Fred Ciba.
By the time they were due to arrive in Comiskey Park, I would have gone anywhere to see them that I could. Again, I was only, at that time, 19 years old, and I wasn't exactly going to hop on a plane or anything like that. But if they came anywhere in the general area, I would like to see them. I don't remember any problem buying a ticket.
Okay.
I remember it being around $5 or so with a 50-cent surcharge or something like that.
Well,
and it was no big problem.
Through the phone or?
No. I don't remember really. I think perhaps we may have just written in and got a ticket through the mail. And we got 2 tickets for Comiskey Park. And the only thing I remember at that time about the use of Comiskey Park was the fact that it was such an unusual thing, a rock and roll group in a ballpark. Let's see, ballparks are for baseball players. Rock and roll groups play at concert halls and stuff. You'll never fill Comiskey Park. You'll never fill the White Sox can't even fill the ballpark. How are you going to bring a musical group and fill the ballpark? Of course, it was overflowing with people by the time the actual concert started. Once we got to the stadium, everybody looked to get there early because, of course, you're caught up in the Beatles. You know that it's going to fill the stadium, and it's 50,000 or so people. If the Beatles are in town, what else would you have to do that day? So we all went early, and of course, in my mind, everybody went early. So the place was loaded, I'm sure, hours before, and we were one of those first arrivals to get there and to find our seats, and of course grumble about our dumpy seats, but not until later would we really realize that nobody could have done any better than us. One of the first memories I think I have, and probably the story that I've told the most as it relates to Comiskey Park, is the fact that here I am, a semi-Beatle, a Chicago version of the Beatles, I suppose, in my collarless suit and in my Beatle boots, being approached by young ladies asking for my autograph. And the reason they wanted to ask me for my autograph was I looked enough like a Beatle for them. I was as close as they would ever get to a Beatle. And I would sign my name, Fred. Well, you know my name is Fred Ciba. We don't care. We think you look enough like a Beatle that we want you to sign our autograph books. And of course, a couple of them said, well, you look enough like Ringo. Could you sign it Ringo and then your name too? So I would sign some Fred Ciba and in parentheses Ringo or something like that. And of course, being at that age, 18, 19 years old, it was quite the thing for me to be sitting in my seat, having a line of girls going up the aisle, waiting in line, pens in hand, autograph books in hand, waiting for me to sign the autograph. I think it was just a matter of killing time until the acts came on, but it was part of the fun. Now, when the Beatles came on, I think I remember them coming in a golf cart type vehicle from the bullpen in Comiskey Park straight to the stage. That was around second base. And of course, immediately when we caught sight of them, I think there was an announcer that says, and ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles, probably somebody like Joel Sebastian or Barney Pip, one of the local disc jockeys at the time, that the crescendo of noise got to be such a pitch. Whatever that person was saying, you couldn't hear. The presumption was that he was saying, here are the Beatles, and of course we saw them come on, saw them walk on the stage, but from that point on it was just a visual experience because you just didn't hear anything. The whole thing about the Comiskey show is that you got to see them. You got to see them live. We had seen them a couple of times on Ed Sullivan. We had seen them a couple of times on other news stories. Of course, we had all the fab gear magazines of sorts in which we could have their photographs. We had the bubblegum cards. We were able to share the Beatle experience in other mediums except live. Here we are actually seeing them live, and we felt privileged to be in this mass of 50,000 people to actually be seeing and hearing them to a degree. So no, I was pleased just to catch a glimpse of them, even though we didn't hear them. Now here's an opportunity to see them, and that was the greatest. All parents throughout the United States would say at that time, you know, they're not going to last forever, they're not going to be around, and we would always have a quick answer that we thought they would. But in our frame of mind in 63, 64, 65, we would think around forever might be through 1966 or something like that. Little could we think that I would be here 25 years later reminiscing about them. And I don't think even the Beatles thought they would last as long as they did.
I'm standing in the shadow of the new Comiskey Park, the new replacing the old. Back in the Beatle concert days, a lot of people had problems with the new replacing the old. Remember our old friend, Tribune columnist Dave Condon? Well, in 1964, he gave the Beatles a favorable review, but when those lovely lads from Liverpool invaded his sacred ball yard and the national pastime, Dave changed his tune. Let's go back to 1965 and Dave Condon's Beatle review.
The Beatles came in yesterday, and their young fans made locust swarms around Comiskey Park. One hopes that the authorities ran Paul, John, Ringo, Max, or whoever and whatever they are through sheep dip before introducing them as guest stars in baseball's cathedral. The Beatles may be cute, but cuter than Art Shires and Zeke Bonura, who made Comiskey Park the shrine that it is? Face it, yesterday they turned the Beatles loose to graze in a pasture where Casey Stengel has delighted millions. Worse than that, there were cheers for this John, Ringo, Paul, and Pete, or whoever and whatever they are. This, it turned out, wasn't the day for baseball writers to be around. Sure, Ringo, Pete, Tony, and Paul turned them out yesterday, just like the World Series. These Englishmen may have looked as though they were posing for the before picture in the greasy kid stuff advertisements, but they sure made the turnstile smoke. Too bad none of them can hit. Too bad, too, that some of the energies expended yesterday cannot be channeled toward baseball and other sports. Nothing against the Liverpool laryngitis lads, but wouldn't you feel better if young America had the same cheers for the baseball and football headliners?
It's been a